It's a very big schus that I'm able to speak on behalf of Yad La'achim. I just spoke a bit earlier in another part of town, and I made it crystal clear that wherever the meeting is hosted, that's very, very special. But the achsanya, the one who's the host that makes it possible, is Yad La'achim. And for that, we should have a deep sense of Hakaras HaTov to Rabbi Cohn, someone that I consider to be a very, very dear Yedid Nefesh. In a number of ways, I always refer to him, even though it makes him uncomfortable, as my Rebbe. Certainly, he teaches us so much by how he continues and continues. He doesn't know how to stop. And the Rebbeinu Shalom should give you, Rabbi Cohn, the koyach to be able to be mamshech la'avodas hakodesh gesund heit. I mentioned earlier that I'm privileged to speak on behalf of Yad La'achim in many, many cities, countless cities over the last many years, in America and in Canada. Sometimes I've been back to the same city already in the rotation a few years later. And it's my opportunity to tell people coming and hopefully getting chizuk is special. Writing out a check for Yad La'achim is also special. But you'll hear, if you'll give me a few minutes, what it means to really, really get involved. And I want to begin by properly thanking the Silber Mishpacha, to Chananya and to Esti Silber, for opening up. You could certainly clap, for sure, for opening up their home. As I say in many of the cities, and Rebbe knows it, there's a very, very big difference between a house and a home. Don't anybody be impressed with a house. A home, that's very impressive. A house? Do you do the right thing with it? Do you host parlor meetings? Do you always have people around your table? The Meshulachim, the ambassadors of Torah? Maybe people who aren't as fortunate as you from broken homes, Almanas, Yesayimim. That's what makes a house into a home. So I'm grateful that Chananya and Esti Silber were smart enough to open up their home. We have a little bit of a Montreal connection, and that makes it even more special for me. HaKadosh Baruch Hu should give you, Reb Chananya, and your whole family, that you should always have the seichel to realize your home should continue to be open, and it should bring you and your whole mishpacha only Yiddish and nachas gesund heit. The reason we came together tonight for Yad La'achim, it's called Achrayas. Achrayas, as I mentioned earlier in the other part of town, means, if I asked you right now, so how you doing with Achrayas? Are you really, you really feel that you are responsible for a fellow Yid? Whenever I speak for Yad La'achim, I mention, you think it's Rabbi Cohn's obligation more than ours? The 30 social workers in Eretz Yisrael that go up and down the country, not only rescuing the Jewish women, but trying with intervention and prevention, speaking, it's their achrayus. That's not true. It's all of us. It's mine, it's me, it's you, it's ours, it's everyone's. It happens to be that we live in other places. We live in LA, we live in Miami. So one thing is to write out a generous check. But it's another thing to show our achrayus and to get people involved. Achrayus is spelled Aleph Ches Reish Yud Vav Saf. Those 6 letters tell you everything that you need to truly show responsibility for a fellow Yid. The Aleph of Achrayus, Aleph is one, that's you. You have to be responsible to yourself in your own growth, your own spirituality, your own ruchnius. No one could stay on the same level. Staying on the same level is bad. The next letter of Achrayus after the Aleph is Aleph Ches. That spells the word Ach. Do you take care of your brothers and sisters? Do you take care of your family? The next letter of Achrayus is a resh, Aleph Ches Resh. That spells a word, Acher. Acher means another person. You know, Rabbi say we don't live in a cocoon. There are oodles and oodles of people who need our help. Financial, physical, psychological, emotional. The next letter of Achrayus is a Yud, Aleph Ches Resh Yud. That spells Acharai. You tell someone, follow after me. I really love you. I care about you. The next letter, Aleph Ches Resh Yud Vav, spells the word Acharav. They'll see you're farlesloch. They'll see that you care. You're the real deal. You walk the talk and talk the talk. And they'll say, you know, you make me comfortable. I'm going to follow you. And the last letter of Achrayus is the letter Suf. The first letter is an Aleph, the last letter is a Tuf. Aleph to Tuf, the entire thing. Like soup to nuts, A to Z. Sometimes we're a little bit better with taking care of people that make me comfortable. You know, our grandmothers were from the same shtetl. We daven in the same shul for the last 40 years. We even have the same havara. We're from the same milieu, and we love making the same salads. That's nice, but that's more cloning than getting along and taking care. How do you do with someone that's a bit out of your comfort zone? Someone that maybe not everybody else realizes it's your responsibility, but it is. Achrayus is Aleph Ches Resh Yud Vav Sav. Aleph, take care of yourself. Ach, we're family. Acher, there isn't a person that everybody should be on our radar to take care of them. Acharai, a person will say, you know, let's show them that we really mean it. Could you give somebody a little heart? Acharav, they'll be willing to follow you, Aleph to Tov, beginning to end. And often when I speak about Yad La'achim, I mention this word. It's really nice that there are people in Eretz Yisrael on the front working. But it's everybody's achrayus. And that's true about Yad La'achim, and it's true about many organizations to take care of individuals and a tzibur. Where does it say that that's exclusively reserved for that's not true. That's an incorrect hashkafa. Achrayus means that if we came together tonight knowing there's a threat of missionaries, it's a really serious and dangerous threat. We think because we live comfortably in Miami, New York, and LA, it's not a threat. And the fact that there's Nebuch, Rachmana litzlan, Jewish women and Jewish girls that get entrapped and ensnared by Arabs and live in Arab villages and need to be rescued. It's all of our achrayus to step up. May I humbly suggest or beg? I'm sure that the people who came to the Silber home tonight will try to write out a check and help as much as they can. What would it be if everybody, from the many women and men that came, everybody took upon themselves to call 2 or 3 people? I can't tell you to call 10 people. Very often that number's so overwhelming, a person won't do it. But how about if a person left there, you don't even have to tell them if you like the speech or not. If you didn't like the speech, for sure don't tell them. And if you liked it, you don't have to. How about saying, did you know? Put Yad La'achim on your radar and tell that to 2 or 3 people so that they can have participation in the achrayus as well. You know that when Yaakov was telling Yosef to check on his brothers, the pasuk says that he told Yosef to check Shalom Achecha and Shalom Hatzoin. How are the sheep and brothers doing? The Torah never uses an extra word, a letter, a vowel. So why didn't the pasuk just say that he told Yosef to check Shalom Achecha V'tzayin? What's up with the word Shalom twice? Once for Achecha and again for Tzayin. It's a big kasha. So listen to an answer I saw many years ago. I hold it's the game changer. Because Yaakov was telling Yosef a message, but not just for Yosef. He was speaking for perpetuity. He was telling Klal Yisrael in the year Tavshin Ayin Ches 5778. Listen, there's Shalom Hatzayin and there's Shalom Achecha. You know what it means for sheep to have peace? If my sheep have the grass to graze and eat, and my sheep are content because they have water, I'm at peace. I'm too cool for school. I'm good to go. Your sheep don't have? Was geht mir on? What does that have to do with me? If my sheep have what to eat and what to drink, I'm comfortable. I'm at peace with myself. Yours don't have? Not my worry. Yaakov was telling Klal Yisrael that definition of peace is for sheep. But for Klal Yisrael, our ticket is Shalom Achecha. And you know what Shalom Achecha means? That if one yid has, but another yid doesn't have, does the first one really have? Which person in Klal Yisrael could have something and possibly at night sleep comfortably or be at peace with themselves knowing someone else is suffering? They need a refuah? They need a Yeshua? They need Shidduchim? They need Parnasa? They need Shalom Bayis? When another person needs, then we truly are not at peace with ourselves. Yaakov is telling us Shalom Hatzayin is good for sheep, but it's unacceptable for Klal Yisrael. Our definition of Shalom Achecha means that if there are missionaries that are trying to rip asunder Yiddish neshamas, and if there are women and girls and families that are trapped in Arab villages, Shalom Achecha says, it's my achrayus. Somehow our Gedalim have always taught us the definition of achrayus. Aleph, Ches, Reish, Yud, Vav, Sof. I met a doctor a number of years ago from New Jersey who told me that his mother had a heart condition, so she would call Reb Moshe Feinstein on Erev Pesach and inquire if the medicine could be taken. And every year, Reb Moshe, with his patience, Reb Moshe's patience was legend. He would tell the woman why she could take the medication, it's not a problem for her heart, and why it's okay, and wish her a good Yom Tov. The doctor told me my mother called Reb Moshe Erev Pesach with the same shaila for more than 20 years. I'd have to imagine, I don't know about you, I'm sure you're wonderful people. By year 6 or 7, I would probably respond like, hello? The same thing the last half a dozen years? I'd say it a little nicer, but that's what I'd probably say. Reb Moshe, with his legendary patience, spoke for more than 20 years. The same shaila, the same answer. One year, the son told me my mother was becoming forgetful, and that Erev Pesach, she forgot to call Reb Moshe. An hour or two before Lichbench on Erev Pesach, the phone rang in her home. And she picked up, and the voice on the other end said, "This is Moshe Feinstein calling. I didn't hear from you today. Are you okay?" I was worried and concerned. And only when she reassured him that she was okay Did he remind her of the psak, why she could take the medicine, it's not a problem? He spent time explaining it and vinched her on a good yar and a good yomtiv. On an Erev Pesach, you didn't need me to come from Miami to tell you Erev Pesach is the busiest day of the Jewish year. And for a Rav, I remember somebody once saying that Erev Pesach for a Rav is more pressure than the near nuclear explosion in 3 Mile Island by Philadelphia in the early 80s. There's more pressure on an Erev Pesach. And for Reb Moshe, the only thing he had on his mind was, it's my achrayus. Shalom Hatzoin would say not to make the call. Shalom Achecha says, it's my responsibility. When I think about the story, I sometimes tell myself, maybe I shouldn't say it publicly, but I will. If I come home and my Rebbitzin says to me, oh, there's a phone call that I got out of making, I don't have to return a call. For a Rav, that's exciting. That's like good news. You don't have to return a call. That's like the joy you get finding out there's no tachnun. I mean on a Monday and a Thursday. That's how exciting it is. But all Reb Moshe wanted to do was to remind her and see if she was okay. That's achrayus, aleph to taf. Shalom achecha means pick up the phone and see how somebody's doing. After the Holocaust, there was a Yid that lost his family, and he was so tzibrochen, he would walk the streets in Borough Park, often aimlessly. And there was a man who, whenever he was in Borough Park, would stop the Yid and give him chizuk. We're not talking about rocket science. Chizuk. Who was the man that had so much time? Who was this man that had so much time to encourage a fellow Yid? His name was Reb Aaron Kotler. Reb Aaron did not live in Lakewood. The yeshiva was in Lakewood, and that's where Reb Aaron went for Shabbos. The apartment was in Borough Park, where Reb Aaron was during the week. And he would always be mechazik the Yid. One day he turned to the Yid and said, you'll remarry, you'll have a daughter, and Be'ezus Hashem, I'll dance at her chasana. The man had not even been thinking like that, but indeed he remarried, he had a daughter, and she became the apple of his eye. When the daughter was about 10, Reb Aaron was nifter. You could imagine how distraught the man was. About 10 years later, fast forward, when the girl was now a kala, she was at her own chasana. In the middle of the first dance, Reb Aaron's son, Reb Shneir Kotler, walks in. He finds the kala's father, and he starts to dance with him, lebedik, lebedik. When the dance ended, he said to Reb Shneir, I didn't want to bother the Rosh Hashiva, what brings you here? And Reb Shneir answered, before my father was nifter years ago, he called me in and he told me, there's a Yid in Borough Park that I said I would dance at his daughter's chasna, but that's not to be. Take his name and his address and follow their life. And when you hear that she's a kala, go to the chasna and dance at the chasna in my place. Reb Aaron was, before he was nifter, he was giving people instructions, thousands upon thousands of things for the future of Klal Yisrael, charting the course of Jewish history. And what did Reb Aaron have on his mind? There's a Yid in Borough Park. When the girl becomes a kala, he tells Reb Shneir, dance at that chasana in my place. Because that's what it means, achrayus. That's what it means, shalom achecha. It's why Reb Moshe called and why Reb Aaron spoke to Reb Shneir. And this is really the way, I can only share these words with myself. He happens to be recording me, and men and women happen to be listening. I think it's something that all of us, if we would learn the art of Shalom Achecha, if we would learn Achrayus, then Be'ezus Hashem, we would put an end to the Golus. It's interesting, everybody knows that the bird that's not kosher is the Chasida. So why is it called Chasida? So everybody is aware of Rashi's Pshat. Sha'oise Chasidus im Chavruseha b'mezaynais. So what's so bad about that? So most people say that the word you should accentuate in Rashi is im Chavruseha. You only do kindness with your friend, the one you carpool with, the one you do the daf with. That's a treifa attitude. But I saw a few years ago such a powerful pshat, poignant, straight to the heart. You know which word you should accentuate? Accentuate the second word. That will tell you why the bird's not kosher. What's the second word of Rashi? Sha'oise chasidus im chavruseha. Meaning the bird views helping another person as chasidus. You know what chasidus means? Chasidus means like above and beyond what I need to. Lifnim mishuras hadin. Thinking that helping a fellow Jew is chasidus, thinking that helping someone is above and beyond what we're required, that's treif. It's why we were created. Recently, I was speaking for an organization, and I quoted from the beginning of Nefesh HaChaim. You learn Nefesh HaChaim. Look at the end of the Hakdama. Reb Chaim Volozhiner's son is telling you what he always heard from his father. Who? Reb Chaim Volozhiner of the Volozhin Yeshiva, the mother of all yeshivas. Reb Chaim Volozhiner's son said, my father always said, the reason that a man was created was lehoyil acharini, to help a fellow yid. That's it. So how you doing with the lehoyil acharini? Do I do enough? And I want to ask myself. A little while ago, the Vizhnitzer Rebbe, Rebbe Yisrael of Bnei Brak, someone approached him that he was making a chasana the next night. And he said that unfortunately his young wife had just passed away, so he was making the chasana on his own without his young wife. He came to Rebbe Yisrael, the Vizhnitzer Rebbe, for a bracha. The Rebbe gave him a varma bracha and said, tomorrow night after the chasana, come back to me. He said, but Rebbe, after the mitzvah tanz, it could be 3, 4 in the morning. He said, I'll be waiting. True to his word, after the mitzvah tanz, the chassid came back, having made the chassan himself because his wife had passed away, and the Rebbe was waiting. They sit down, and the Rebbe turns to him and says, so tell me, by the chassan's tish, which one of the foods was the one that people enjoyed the most? Did the suits and the shoes that you bought the new children, did they fit right? How many no-shows were there? How many place cards were left after the evening? Now, for the main dish you offered, chicken or meat, what was more popular? Was dessert served on time? And were you happy with how it tasted? It tasted the way you wanted? And many of these questions. And when after the hour the man left, the chassid left, the Gabbai turned to the Rebbe and said, teach me what happened. And the Vizhnitzer Rebbe looked at the Gabbai and said, after a person makes a bar mitzvah or a chasana, and they come home at 2 in the morning, what's the first thing that they do? You were zeicha to make a bar mitzvah? You walked your daughter down the chuppah? You know what you do. A person is privileged to sit down with their spouse and they discuss every detail, every nuance, every cuticle, every pitchivka of the simcha. Who was he going to sit down with? Who was this man going to discuss details about the fish and the place cards and the shoes and the chosenstish and the dessert? The man may have cried himself to sleep and soaked his pillow. Who was he going to talk to and to share what so many people are privileged to share with a spouse at 2 a.m. when you come home from your daughter's chasanim? That's why I called him over. That's achrayus. That is shalom achecha. And that's what the Vizhnitzer Rebbe is teaching us, that being kind and taking care of another Yid is not chasidus. I'm telling this to myself. I have to reframe. Reframe means think differently. Going out of my comfort zone, helping another person physically, psychologically, emotionally, financially, helping them with their gashmius and their ruchnius, is not chasidus. Chasidus means wow. It's not. It's our job. It's my job, and it's your job. And that's why Reb Chaim Volozhiner told his son, Reb Chaim Volozhiner, man was created lahoyel acharini, to help another person. Tonight it happens to be, we have the chance to help in a gargantuan way, Yad La'achem. As I said, your coming here is a very, very big source of chizuk. I know to Rabbi Cohn, I'm sure to the Silber Mishpacha, and to me. Writing out a check, I know in the other location Rabbi Cohn mentioned, someone beforehand had one amount in mind, and after the drasha he heard changed it to a different amount. I hope it was a larger amount and not less.
I wouldn't tell you.
It was larger. He told me the amount. So write out a larger check. And if everybody left here a very nice showing of men and women, and before, don't wait a week. You're not going to even remember. You'll remember what the silver served because it's so beautiful. You're not going to remember who spoke or what it was about. Call 2 people and say, you know what? Do something for Yad La'achem. In fact, you're not even doing it for Yad La'achem. You're selfishly doing it for yourselves. You know why? And I'll conclude with this. It says in Shir Hashirim, Hashmi'ini es kailech, ki kailech orev. Now, literally, that means that I'll listen to your voice because you have a sweet voice. You know what the Radomsker Rebbe says? You'll hear it once, it'll change your life. The word orev is not just from the word sweet, it's from the word kol yisrael arevim zeh bazeh. The Rebbeinu Shalom is saying, Hashmi'ini es kailech. I'll listen to your voice, but ki kailech arev. It better be a voice of arevus, kol yisrael arevim zeh v'zeh. A voice of achrayus, a voice of shalom achecha, a voice that doesn't call it chasidus. A voice that understands why Reb Moshe called on an Erev Pesach and Reb Aaron sent Reb Schneier. A voice that knows why at 4 o'clock in the morning the Vizhnitzer Rebbe spoke about chicken. And then the Radomsker concludes and he says something so spectacular. Which one of the 3 Avos, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, best taught us arevus one with another? Yaakov. The 12 Shvatim, there was sinna and kinna, hatred and jealousy, but after, Vahi b'shur melech b'sasev rosh hayom, yachad, shiftei Yisrael. No one taught us arevus, getting along like Yaakov Avinu. So listen to what the Radomsker says. That was by Yaakov Avinu, now I get it. What was the name of the tefillah that Avram established? Shachris. What's the name of the tefillah that Yitzchak established? Mincha. And what's the name of the tefillah that Yaakov established? Not Ma'ariv. Ma'ariv is found in Yesir on page 282. The name of the tefillah that Yaakov established is Arvis. Kol Yisrael arevim zeh b'zeh, achrayis, shalom achecha. That's the name of the tefillah he established. I cannot paskin for you. You have to speak to your own Rav, but I'd like to humbly suggest. The Gemara says that for women, the tefillah of Ma'ariv might be reshus optional. I will say unabashedly and clearly, Ma'ariv might be optional, but Arvis is a chayva. It's obligatory. No one go to sleep at night without asking, did I daven Shachris, Mincha, Ma'ariv? Did I daven Arvis? Because the Rebbeinu Shalom says, listen to me. Here's the ticket. Hashmi'ini es koilech. You want me to listen to your voice? Ki koilech orev. Then daven Arvis. Kol Yisrael arevim zeh b'zeh. May it be the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that we do whatever we can on behalf of Yad La'achim. Help Rabbi Cohn and the so many who are doing what we should be doing. Don't fool yourselves. They're doing it and we owe them Hakaras HaTov. Your coming was huge. Writing out a generous check is tremendous. And yes, as we've said twice already, taking my word seriously, going and calling 2 or 3 people, it would make a ginormous difference. It should be the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that if we leave here, if I leave here tonight, if we leave here tonight, being a little bit better in our achrayas, Aleph Ches Reish Yud Vav Sof, taking Shalom Achecha more to heart, realizing that helping people is not chasidus, as Reb Chaim Volozhiner said, it's why I and you and we were created. Remembering Reb Moshe, Reb Aaron, and the Vision Rebbe, let us be Zoicha. Let us be Zoicha. Because the needs of Klal Yisrael are great. So many people need nechama, refuahs, yeshuas, hatzlacha, shidduchim, shalom bayis. A lot of people. Let's tell the Rebbeinu Shalom, Hashmi'ini es koilech, please listen to our beautiful and sweet voice, ki koilech orev, because it's a voice of arevos, of Kol Yisrael arevim zeh b'zeh, where we daven tfilas arvis each and every day. And in that schus, let's hear the ultimate koil, the koil of Kol Sosam and Kol Simcha, bechutzais Yerushalayim, b'mheira and b'yameinu. Amen.